Hello there and welcome to the most watched business show in the country. This is the Business Weekly Show here on City TV and I am your host, Michael Obodu. And thank you for tuning in and please hit me up on Twitter at @mobodu. Now in the next 1 hour, we'll be bringing you a wrap of all the major business stories for the week. So if you're ready, let's go. The stir the 2022 budget has caused is a very interesting one. As usual, there are always opposing sides to a lot of the policies introduced. While some sing praise the Lord, others cry foul. But at this point, it's all in the hands of Parliament, and from the heated debate on the budget is already generating, you can't be too sure what to expect. I already heard one MP say his constituents have asked him not to return home should he approve the budget. Now, I wonder how many MPs will have to remain in Accra once it is approved. Anyways, we'll start off the show this week bringing you reactions to various portions of the budget. First off is the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
During the presentation of the 2022 budget in Parliament, the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta noted that the total value of electronic transactions for 2020 was estimated to be over 500 billion Ghana cedis compared to 78 billion Ghana cedis in 2016, just 5 years ago, while total mobile money subscribers and active mobile money users have grown by an average rate of 18% and 16% respectively between 2016 and 2019. Based on the rapid developments in the electronic payment space, coupled with plans to rake in more revenue for the country, government has slapped a 1.75% levy on mobile money and other electronic transactions that exceed 100 Ghana cedis a day. However, addressing the media on this development, President of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Clement Osei-Amwaku, said, in order for government to collect revenue and support the growth of businesses, the e-levy must be reduced.
In looking at some of the levies that have been put around, if they decide that, look, let me move away from doing, let's say, the Momo, and then move to the banking sector, because they need to look for alternatives to survive. And so then they can say that, look, we are not going to do Momo. We will put our money in the banking sector. The good side is that the bank will have loanable funds to give loans. And so the interest rate can also fall because they have excess money to give up to the people who are in need of those monies. But then there's a lot of jobs that has been created over there. How are we going to reposition those who have been there? How do we have the statistics of the number of people who are being employed in those areas? What is it going to be the effects of them, of their businesses? We are saying that tax and levies are the best for every country. For a start, we don't want the government to increase it so much. And a friend was asking, it depends on where you are coming from. But whatever it is, we saw that the tax and the levies, some of them were punitive. And for a start, they could bring it down to some appreciable level, for which after the debate today, we'll send a communique to the government as to where they have to put it.
It's not just the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry that has concerns about the proposed e-levy. The Institute of Economic Affairs thinks the rate is on the high side. They want it reduced by more than half.
The introduction of the 1.75% tax has been met with a lot of criticism since it was announced last week Wednesday in Parliament. Although officials from government have justified the move, saying that it is the right step in widening the tax net and roping in the informal sector, many have complained because of its impact on mobile money transactions and the digitalization agenda. Various stakeholders in different sectors of the country have also raised concerns about the policy. Some of these stakeholders include the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, Dr. Ken Ashigbe, and tax analyst Dr. Abdallah Ali Nachia, who believe the introduction of the levy is ill-timed and not well thought through. Associate Professor at the Department of Economics at the University of Ghana, Professor Festus Ebo-Texon, also argues that the new tax is too high and will discourage many people from performing digital transactions, which will ultimately lead to lower returns for the government's projected revenue. Already, the minority caucus in Parliament has vowed to kick against the government's proposal for the implementation of the levy in the ongoing debate on the 2022 budget. While many other Ghanaians are asking for a complete withdrawal of the levy, others are asking for a reduction of the rate. One of such people is economist and director of research at the Institute for Economic Affairs, Dr. John Kwache.
Well, customers will be paying the 1.75 levy on mobile transactions in addition to the 1% already levied by telcos, bringing the total levy to 2.75%. In other words, if you do a transfer, mobile transfer, you pay 1% to the telcos, you pay 1.75% to government, making a total of 2.75%. That's a lot. Now, my own view is that if we want to ease the burden on customers and avoid any negative reactions, I would have started with something like 0.5%. Okay, let's start from somewhere, and then maybe over time we'll see what happens. So, my point is that the 1.75 seems to be on the high side. If you add 0.5, that will go to add on to the telcos 1%, and that will be 1.5%.
Pretty interesting suggestions there, but as expected, not everyone has concerns with some of the policies in the budget. The Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, is part of the very elated side. They had their way with the scrapping of the discount on the benchmark values. They had argued that it made local producers uncompetitive. It just doesn't end there. They still are asking for more.
The Association of Ghana Industries has been on a coalition course with the Ghana Union of Traders Association following calls by the AGI for the 50% benchmark value reduction policy to be reversed. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, during the presentation of the 2022 budget statement in Parliament, announced the reversal of the policy. The AGI says it welcomes the government's decision to scrap the policy and maintains that its stance on the policy was not against members of GUTA.
It looks as if people have misconstrued AGI's opinion. AGI has nothing against anybody. We have nothing against our brothers and sisters in the GUTA. All we are trying to do is to let the public know, and the government also know, that AGI, government always talk about engine of growth, and AGI is the engine of growth. No economy grows on import, buying and selling, import and all that. Economies thrive on industries, and that's what we do. AGI's position is to make sure that what we produce in the country, what we put our sweat into, what we have invested into, and what we are doing in the country is not competing unfavorably with what people are importing into the country. What we normally say is, well, the benchmark value, we are not against it, but it was, I think, applied wholesale, which to us it shouldn't be. It should be targeted. It shouldn't be wholesale. And that's what we are telling government to do. What we produce here, government shouldn't give a wholesale a benchmark on it. That makes it, makes the competition very unfavorable.
The AGI wants more support from the government for local industries to strive.
Values came about. AGI kicked against it, spoke against it. In fact, we had a press briefing here where we spoke against it, that the government shouldn't make it a wholesale reduction on the benchmark, but target some specific products. For example, oil producers in Ghana produce about 300 1,000 metric tons of oil per year. And our consumption, national consumption, is about 226,000. So we are overproducing. So if people import the same oil and sell below what is being produced in Ghana, it means we are not helping industries in Ghana. And that is all that we told government, that, okay, you can reduce the benchmark values because we all enjoy it. For instance, if someone is importing something that is not tires, we don't produce car tires here. So if the benchmark values are attached to the people who import tires, everybody, including we manufacturers, are going to enjoy this reduction. And has it actually had any effect on government revenue? No. Before this benchmark values came about, the 4 gallon price of locally produced oil was about 145, and the imported ones was about 160. After the benchmark values, they reduced theirs to 115, whilst the local ones were still being sold at 140. Unfortunately, the locally produced ones are organic, but those being imported, we don't know the source. We don't even know the source. And we are just saying that, yes, you can import, but you cannot import at the detriment of the locally manufactured.
The AGI says it can contribute to job creation if it continues to gain government support.
It didn't just end there for the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI. They are asking their biggest opponents on the benchmark value issue, that is, the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, to support the move by government. How ironic.
While a section of the business community, mostly members of the Association of Ghana Industries, have welcomed the government's recent decision to reverse the 50% benchmark policy, members of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, have warned of intense protests if government goes ahead to reverse the policy. The policy was introduced by governments in 2019 to reduce the menace of smuggling and make the country's ports more competitive and attractive. Following its introduction, the AGI on several occasions have lamented the effects the policy was having on local industries and asked that imports which come to compete with locally manufactured products be exempted from the policy, for which there is local production capacity. CEO of the AGI, Seth Chum Akwabwa, spoke to City Business News on the way forward on the sidelines of the association's 61st annual general meeting.
It is not the question of who is benefiting. It's rather the issue of development of this country and how we can create jobs. And you and I know very well that if you have industries that are thriving, they create jobs. In any case, the traders are also for AGI. The traders trade in AGI's products. They trade in made in Ghana products. So it's not a question of being denied items to trading. It's just a question of ensuring that the playing field is level. In any case, it's not an imposition of a new duty. It is just a reversal of a policy on selected items that we have local capacity to produce. So the policy hasn't been scrapped, it hasn't been withdrawn. It is only a few products. Out of more than 1,000 products that we import into this country, only about 40 is being selected in this case. And government is saying that for those products, we have local manufacturers that are producing them. So let's have some protection for them. In any case, as I said, it is not an imposition of duty. It is just that there was a reduction in the duties on these items, and it was affecting local industries, it was affecting jobs. And therefore, there has been the need to review it to bring it back to where it was before. So there's nothing new, just the last 2 years that this happened. So if any group says they will not understand, I think that we leave that to the discretion of government. It is government to take its decision. But I think as citizens, we must appreciate this situation. So if you have people, if you have brothers, if you have sisters who are employed by companies that are actually into the production of these items, if you allow them to go and sit at home and buy imported products because imports is cheaper, it's up to all of us. But don't let us forget that if people don't have jobs, no matter how cheap the imports become, they cannot even buy. So we should rather encourage people to have jobs.
Now, with the posturing of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, on the benchmark values, one would have thought that all is well in their camp, but that isn't the case. The Rice Millers Association of Ghana are not too happy at all because the government failed to include rice in the products whose benchmark value discounts were reversed.
According to the Rice Millers Association, the implementation of the 50% benchmark policy over the last 2 years has led to the shutdown of most local rice millers. They contend that those in operation are also producing at less than half their capacity. The policy was introduced in 2019 to, among other things, reduce smuggling at the ports and shore up government's revenue. However, following agitation from a section of the business community, government recently reversed the policy. All items under the 32 categories currently enjoying ports clearing discounts will no longer enjoy that special dispensation. The items include sugar, noodles, palm oil, roofing sheets, toilet paper, facial tissue, chocolates, porcelain cements, clinker, and mosquito coil. Other items also include vehicles, ceramic tiles, aluminium products, textiles, fruit juices, among others. In an interview with City Business News, convener of the Rice Millers Association, Yao Edu Poku said governments should do all it can to support the local rice industry.
We fought, and we fought a good fight, not because of selfish interests. We fought for the good of all. Now, when the list came, rice had been taken out. Rice is not part of the benchmark recipe. And we are wondering how it came about, because rice was number 2 on the list. First was sugar, second was rice. I have cause to believe that until it got to GRA, rice was still on the list. Now, we can't find where rice is. So I am very, very disappointed. We are hoping that this is not a deliberate situation, that it is an oversight. If it is deliberate, then we have done the whole nation a wrong. We are not saying that government should feed us. No. We are saying that government should enable rice millers to be able to meet the volume that is demanded by the consuming public. That is all we say. And once that is done, it means that rice farms are going to be expanded double and quadruple. And that means a lot of people will go into rice farming. And then we cut down on the unemployment. This is what we are trying to get the government to appreciate.
We have heard from various players on the budget, and to give it more perspective, let's hear from a tax consultant on some of the policies introduced. You will find our next video very informative, especially due to the balance Dr. Alex Ampabing brings to some of the tax proposals and how they can be better implemented for maximum results. As part of efforts by the government to rake in more revenue for the country, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta announced in the 2022 budget presentation the introduction of some new taxes, while others were revised upwards. Amongst them were the 1.75% levy on mobile money and other electronic transactions that exceeded 100 Ghana cedi per day, and the increment of all government services by at least 15% from January 2022. Tax analyst Dr. Alex Ampabing says the government's efforts to raise more revenue ought to be lauded.
One of the most refreshing statements from the budget is the fact that this year, by December, according to the finance minister, we are going to have the bill passed. Excellent. The benchmark valuation being revisited is good. I'm not saying it should be removed, but then we need to revisit. That's the beauty of tax exemptions. You exempt, then you put some sunset clause. So time comes, you revisit to see if it's living up to expectation. This is exactly what you want the government to do. So I believe that the decision to revisit the benchmark values to tell if government is actually getting the required revenue or if the trade volumes projected are coming in is excellent. Another excellent initiative is the MMDA's introduction of the new unified platform for property tax. In Europe and across the world, for example, within the Eurozone, it's about almost 3% per annum on property tax. It might sound just 3, but that's billions of dollars every year to their coffers. You come to Africa, and the records are showing that you're only 0.38. And Ghana probably will be lucky if you're doing 0.1.
He, however, raised concerns over some of the policies, arguing that they might be counterproductive for government's revenue mobilization drive.
We need the revenue for our roads. toll money was being used for road maintenance. The question is, where are we going to get the money from? We are already very tight in the fiscal space. Government don't have it. So I think government should have stepped back, look at what's the best way to reform it, either to digitize the system so we don't need to do the whole paperwork again, or we could have just go by the UK example, or the road tax. So you pay road tax, which is just one single payment for the year. You pay one single payment for the year, and it's called the road tax. That is tied to whenever you're going to renew your roadworthy. Elevy, I'm not entirely against it, but I think we might need to step back and assess few things. Number one, how is this going to be implemented? For example, if you say 3,000 a month and 100 Ghana a day, if somebody transacts only 100 Ghana, that person will not be charged for the next 30 days, if 100 throughout. But if somebody transacts 1,000 today and doesn't transact the whole month, that person will be taxed because it says a daily limit of 1,000, but a monthly limit of 3,000. But I transact only 1,000 for the whole month. So if you don't tax me, but you tax, if you don't tax the one doing 3,000, but if you tax me doing 1,000, so you go to revisit. Can it be maybe, okay, we are not going to tax you throughout the month until your transaction crosses the threshold of 3,000. Then we can start deducting. So government need to be very clear on some of the implementation path.
Finally, on the budget, we hear from the horse's own mouth. The finance minister has been justifying the introduction of the electronic transaction levy. He believes the levy is key to turning the fortunes of the economy.
So recent economic data suggests that the overall tax for GDP for Sub-Saharan Africa in 2018 was some 16.5%. The tax to GDP ratio for Ghana in 2019 estimated at 12.2%, trying to move towards 16% in 2022. Our tax per GDP is lower than our peer countries in West Africa and significantly lower than many developed nations. I think the EU is about 34%. South Africa 26.7%, Senegal 16.4%, average Sub-Sahara 16.5%, and Ghana 12.2%. Out of about 18 million potential taxpayers, only 2.4 persons, approximately 8% of the total population, are registered as personal income taxpayers as of August this year. Only 45,000 entities are registered as corporate taxpayers, while 54,000 persons are registered as self-employed taxpayers at the Ghana Revenue Authority, and only 136,000 entities are registered businesses at the Register Generals as of August, of which 80% are self-employed individuals. And only 33.3% of employees contributed to income taxes, while 1.6% of self-employed individuals contributed to income taxes in 2019. These statistics, ladies and gentlemen, are a poor reflection on the country and highlight the need for change in the narrative. We cannot continue to depend on only 8.2% of our citizens to carry the burden of 30.8 million people and also seek to transform our economy. In government, we are determined to enhance domestic revenue mobilization and set the nation on a path to building an entrepreneurial nation. So you start. In truth, the e-levy is a necessary tool to increase our tax to GDP and support the thrust of the government's direction in the medium term, promoting entrepreneurship and supporting our youth and eliminating the indignity of not working in all of our homes and across all of our villages.
The rate at which the Bank of Ghana lends to commercial banks has gone up to 14.5%. This is the first time it has gone up since May 2021. It was maintained at 13.5% for 2 consecutive times. This will mean that the average rate at which commercial banks will also give out loans to us and businesses will also go up. But why and what could be the justification for the increase?
The announcement of the increase in the monetary policy rate by 100 basis points from 13.5% to 14.5% in November of 2021 came at the end of the 103rd Monetary Policy Committee meeting. The rate, which is of keen interest to businesses, does not only signal the rate at which the central bank will lend to commercial banks, it also subsequently influences average lending rate on loans to individuals and businesses. Headline inflation, according to the central bank statement, has risen consistently from the low of 7.5% in May of 2021 to 11% in October this year. The rise is on the back of both food and non-food price increases. In addition, all the bank's core measures of inflation have increased, indicating broad-based underlying inflation pressures with the potential of de-anchoring inflation expectations. Currently, headline inflation is above the upper limit of the medium-term target band of 8 plus or minus 2%. And according to the committee, it noted significant risk to the inflation outlook. These risks include rising global inflation, high energy prices, uncertainty surrounding food prices, and investor behavior. The committee further noted that these elevated inflationary risks require prompt policy action to re-anchor inflation expectations to safeguard the central bank's price stability objective. Dr. Eduo Ususakode is a lecturer in the Department of Economics at the University of Ghana, and he has been reacting to the increase in the policy rate.
Some actors in the economy will gain whilst others will lose. Let's look at some of the negative effects of the policy rate. Obviously, a higher policy rate will lead to an increase in interest rate, increasing the cost of borrowing, which will reduce investment and then make the overall effect on GDP negative. You also expect consumers to reduce consumption, make a substitution from consumption to investment, the other forms of investment, because in this case, other instruments like treasury bill and government bonds will have an increase in yield and will attract the consumers and businesses and even foreign investors into the country. So you expect the effect of that to reduce the depreciation of the cedi, increase exports, and then increase the yields on investment, and with the overall effect of reducing inflation. So obviously, the overall impact of this policy rate is that the government expects a reduction in the depreciation of the cedi, which will fuel exports, and a reduction in the inflation rate, but it will have an adverse effect on the economic growth of this country. So it puts government's projection of the GDP growth rate into some doubt.
So when at all will we ever hear of major reductions in our total debts as a country? Ghana's total public debt stock has increased marginally to almost 342 billion Ghana cedis as of September 2021. This isn't so much of an increase from the earlier figure, which stood at about 340 billion in August. The way I don't like owing, it always feels uncomfortable hearing about the country's debt. But what does this new development actually mean? Let's find out.
An additional 1.5 billion Ghana cedis has pushed Ghana's public debt stock to 341.8 billion Ghana cedis as of September 2021, standing at 340.3 billion Ghana cedis in August this year. The new figure represents a marginal 0.44% increase in the country's debt stock. According to the latest Bank of Ghana's summary of macroeconomic and financial data, the new debt figure brings Ghana's debt to GDP ratio to 77.8% as of the end of September this year, just 0.2 percentage points shy of 78%. A breakdown of the debt figures shows that the component of debt secured locally rose marginally by 1.7 billion Ghana cedis from 176.4 billion cedis in August to 178.1 billion Ghana cedis in the month under review. The new figure represents 40.5% of the projected GDP for 2021. The domestic component of the total public debt contains the financial sector resolution bond, which has for 3 consecutive months remained at 14.9 billion Ghana cedis, representing 3.4% of GDP. For the external debt, it fell by $100 million in August to $27.9 billion in September 2021, equivalent to 37.2% of GDP. However, the cedi component of the external debt shot up because of the decline in value of the cedi to the dollar. Despite the increase in the nation's debt stock, the rate of increase has slowed down when compared to the about 30 billion Ghana cedis added in April and May this year. However, it confirms concerns by analysts and economists that the country's debt has reached alarming levels and urgently needs to be looked at.
Let's now do some energy-related stories. Fuel prices and their constant rise. One can barely keep up these days because the price keeps changing. We know global prices partly contribute to this, but it isn't the only factor causing the price hikes at the pumps. Another is the depreciation of the cedi, which makes it more expensive to exchange for dollars. The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, has some suggestions on how this can be managed for persons who import fuel into the country. There has been a lot of talk about the constant hikes in the price of fuel since the start of the year. Prices at the pump started off at a little over 4 Ghana cedis a litre, but are now 1 peso shy of hitting the 7 Ghana cedi mark. The sporadic increase has been blamed on a number of issues, including the jump in the price on the world market. A barrel of oil that sold for less than $50 in January currently sells for about $75 per barrel after having crossed the $85 mark late October. The depreciation of the cedi against the dollar also plays a role in the narrative, and the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers COPEC believes the Bank of Ghana must begin giving special forex provisions for importers of fuel into the country to help control the price of the commodity at the pumps.
You cannot continue to have a situation where the fuel importers would also have to go to the same open market, right, to source for dollars like all others. Your fuel market has a certain effect, correlative effect, on all other economic bits. So we have requested for the BOG to treat fuel imports, right, with a certain urgency in order that we don't misalign the Ghanaian budget and economy altogether. Per this, we are hoping that the 2022 budget would factor the FX challenge that fuel importers currently face. They would need so much to pay suppliers, but because the BOG is not able to guarantee them the dollar, they also have to go to the open market and source for dollars. They also compound the FX issue, but unfortunately, we are not looking at that critical bit. For international market price index, we don't have control, we can't do much about. But it would have been easier to offset international market price alone with scaling down on the taxes, if only we could stabilize the forex.
Now to Premixed Fuel. Very soon, you fisher folks will be able to go to various stations to buy the product just like from a regular fuel pump. This is all in a bid to regulate the challenges associated with the sale and distribution of the product. Premixed Fuel is heavily subsidized, but the hoarding and the smuggling associated with it is defeating the government purpose of the discount. Gladly, that is about to change soon. Premixed Fuel is a heavily subsidized petroleum product aimed at providing a buffer for the high cost of fuel and provide incentives for the artisanal fisheries sector. Unfortunately, the subsidy has led to corrupt practices, including smuggling and the hoarding of the product. Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, Benjamin Boache, finds the situation rather worrying.
As you do know, the fuel is highly subsidized. MPS says up to 73%. of the cost of the product is actually borne by the state and by extension consumers of petroleum products. So people take advantage of that to trade the product illicitly. So instead of sending it to the landing beaches, it end up either at the pump or for other users such as power generation or light fishing or for Okada, driving riders and the rest of it. So what we have been trying to do is to collaborate with the Secretariat to ensure that we can facilitate a transition from the manual processes to an automated system.
Speaking at a national policy dialogue on premixed fuel supply in Ghana organized by the Africa Center for Energy Policy, the administrator of the National Premixed Fuel Secretariat, Nana Abrokwa Asare, stated that his outfit was confident that the rollout of the automated fuel dispensing system would significantly reduce the menace in the country.
The automated fuel dispensing and monitoring system will be piloted in 50 landing beaches out of the 300 landing beaches across the 4 coastal and 2 lake regions. Having successfully launched the automated premixed fuel dispensing unit at Nungwa in December 2019, it is the plan of the NPFS to see a national rollout soon. Already the system has shown significant promise by curbing to a great extent the issue of premixed fuel hoarding at Nungwa. Some of the benefits of the system as realized from the pilot phase include easy payment, effective tracking, transparency and payment flexibility, effective solving of perennial challenges like prolonged waiting time, low customer satisfaction, rush hour challenges, lack of trust and transparency, and general transaction hassle.
Even though the automated system has a lot of prospects in addressing the issues with premixed fuel, ACER believes more aspects must be considered to make it watertight.
How do you ensure that if somebody has access to a quota or a card, that person will use it to go and fish, so that if the person is not fishing, he or she can be blocked from using the card to access the product. And also, if you move from one landing beach to the other, which happens very often with the fisher folks, how are you able to still procure using the same card that you have on your account, so that it can be transmitted within the system that you are buying the same quantities that have been allocated to you. So these are solutions that we are proposing. We're going to still have to work with NPA and the Secretariat to ensure that we can resolve the technology challenges and also deployment concerns. Who finances it? How much is it? Those are the outstanding issues that we really need to work together on to ensure that as quickly as possible we can automate the processes for the benefit of the fisher folks, and ultimately also to eliminate the illicit trade.
We all want constant and reliable electricity, don't we? But it takes very financially stable power production and distribution companies to make this happen. To make this possible, it sometimes requires a review of tariffs. Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh believes the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission and the independent power producers must re-examine their tariffs and energy charges in order to deliver not just reliable but affordable power.
Ghana has made significant progress over the past 10 years in increasing electricity generation and access. This has supported higher levels of economic growth. However, beneath these improvements lies inefficiencies, including extraordinarily high distribution losses and the fact that electricity is also quite expensive in the country, a situation that many industry players have raised concerns over. Power in the country is presently being sold at about 17 cents per kilowatt hour as compared to about 8 cents per kilowatt hour with nuclear energy. According to many stakeholders, the situation, if not addressed, could derail Ghana's developmental agenda. Delivering the keynote address at the 5th Ghana Energy Awards, Minister of Energy Matthew Opoku Prempeh says his outfit is currently engaging the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission (PURC) on how best tariffs can reflect cost and make the energy sector financially viable.
We in the energy sector are collaborating with PURC for tariff rationalization.
Everybody, when he hears the name of PRC, thinks it should be tariff increases, tariff increases, tariff increases. But an unexamined life is not worth living. And we hope PRC will take and re-look and re-examine their tariff structure to provide a better regulatory service to the energy sector in the country. Also, I know some are here, the independent power producers. I do know for a fact that charging for goods and services in Ghana is contrary to the Foreign Exchange Transaction Act of Bank of Ghana 2006. So we'll be coming back at you to look at your tariffs and your energy charges to reflect in cedis, because that's the only currency we have and we adore and we have to protect.
Dr. Prempeh also said the Energy Ministry had fully embraced the government's digitalization agenda and would continuously collaborate with stakeholders to implement systems that would champion the country's industrialization agenda.
Considering the global threats to the energy distribution business, ECG cannot afford to continue to the current tangent, which is not in tune with the trends in the global energy sector. Smart meters need smart systems with smart processes, and we are moving from the era where physical inspection is giving way to a more digitalized era with government's digitalization agenda. Going forward, Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there are others that we have tried to do. Like just now, there's a pilot going on in Kumasi where we have smart street lighting, where we can monitor the street lights, and it's solar as well, from Accra to see which one is going off and which one is coming. Hopefully, we will have smart street lights ongoing, and every street light will be changed. The era when people change street lights to face their compound in their various homes, I hope will be a thing of the past. At the Ministry of Energy, we will continue to collaborate with the relevant stakeholders to ensure that this critical sector employs more innovative solutions to drive the President's industrialization agenda in the most effective way.
The 5th Ghana Energy Awards celebrated individuals and institutions that have contributed immensely to the growth of the energy sector over the period. Organized by the Energy Media Group in partnership with GP Business Consulting, this year's event was on the theme Digitalized Energy Sector, the Key for a Resilient Economic Future. The organizers of the program conferred Lifetime Achievement Awards on former President John Ejekum Kufuor and the late former President Jerry John Rawlings for their contributions and investments towards the development of the energy sector.
Did you know that over 90,000 Ghanaians make a living out of the charcoal value chain alone, and it generates close to $66 million each year? This is why some natural resources and energy experts are urging the Lands and Natural Resources and the Energy Ministries to implement measures to formulate and regulate the wood fuel sector to ensure sustainability, while ensuring that people's sources of livelihood is not disrupted.
Many households and institutions have for years relied on wood fuel, such as charcoal and firewood, for cooking. While wood fuel is an essential commodity, several concerns have been raised with respect to environmental sustainability. Authorities in the Savannah region of Ghana, for instance, have even banned commercial charcoal burning, which has received strong criticisms from stakeholders within the space. Many who rely mostly on the commodity lament that their source of livelihood has been cut. In a bid to address issues concerning sustainability in relation to wood fuel, 4 organizations in 2015, namely the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST, University of Ghana, Tropenbos Ghana, and the University of Copenhagen, began a research to look into how best stakeholders can tackle the issue. The research is being clamored with a conference under the theme Sustainable Wood Fuel Value Chain in Africa, Governance, Social, Economic, and Ecological Dimensions. The principal investigator for the project, Professor Ibano Echampo, who spoke to City Business News on the sidelines of the conference, highlights the level of reliance some Ghanaians have on charcoal and the revenue it generates.
We realize that about 90,000 individuals across the commodity chain make a livelihood from charcoal production in Ghana, yes. And then along the chain too, the amount of money, amount of income that is generated along the chain is about $66 million per annum. So we're able to quantify the amount of money, amount of income that these actors along the chain make per annum, and that is around $66 million US. And then in terms of the tons of, or the volume of charcoal that is produced every year, is around 589,000 tons per annum in terms of bags, because people can relate to bags. And we have about 11.5 million bags of charcoal produced per annum in Ghana.
In order to come up with policies to safeguard the interests of all stakeholders, some experts have been outlining measures the government of Ghana and other African countries can adopt.
There's a need to deal with this demand situation. One of the responses are to prepare plantations for wood fuels. Also, the institutions of the state, the Ministry of Land and Natural Resources and the Energy Ministry, they have ideas about formalization of the sector to make rules and regulations of the sector. I don't think that's not a bad idea, but again, it have to be done in a way that actually takes into the consideration the way that charcoal is produced and traded in this country.
It's really important to ensure that communities are well supported and have alternatives for their livelihoods. And the third is, of course, economic, because actually the livelihoods farmers and forest producers are really reliant on this energy.
The director of Tropenbos Ghana, Mercy Usuansa, who has been leading her team to organize forums with stakeholders, has underscored the need for all actors along the charcoal value chain to be properly engaged.
So we made sure that all stakeholders are coming together and discussing the issue of charcoal. We made sure that they are talking to each other, they are sharing, and at the same time responding to questions that each stakeholder has when it comes to charcoal production and then the sustainability aspect of it. We have involved several actors from traditional authorities, private sector, the government sector, and as I said, the communities were our key stakeholders in all these things.
Government has been outlining strategies it is adopting to address the issue. The aide to the Energy Minister, Rodney Nkrumah Boateng, who represented the sector minister, made known government's plan.
The government of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is committed to the country's commitments under SDG 7. To this end, we are focused on expanding the adoption of market-based, cleaner cooking solutions and sustainable charcoal production and use. In order to achieve this, we are working on scaling up the adoption of liquefied petroleum gas for household, commercial, and institutional purposes from 25% to 50% nationwide by 2030. We are also scaling up access to and adoption of improved biomass stoves by 3 million households by 2030, and will promote innovative and efficient kilns while supporting the establishment of woodlots.
Poor quality of produce is threatening food security agenda of the country. What's the point in producing food that doesn't meet the standards of buyers? At a market access facilitation meeting in Tamale, off-takers in the sector urged farmers to observe standards when harvesting their produce to ensure guaranteed price. If they follow through with this, I'm sure we'll reduce significantly food wasted after harvest and improve the livelihoods of our farmers.
The ultimate goal of every farmer, including seed producers, is to make profit. This objective, however, depends on the quality of their produce. To attract the right prices for one's produce, off-takers recommend adherence to standard agronomic practices and right harvesting techniques to achieve the desired goal. Under the Savannah Agricultural Productivity Improvement Program and Savannah Investment Program, efforts are being made to improve quality. In an interview with City Business News at this year's Market Access Facilitation meeting, off-takers expressed concern over the level of non-compliance to harvesting standards.
Anybody who is producing is aiming at high quality products. Not you're going to find that you are producing a substandard commodity. If you are producing maize, when you are planting maize to be, let's say, grade 1. But you don't plant maize as grade 2 and then expect grade 2 price. So if your maize is not grade 1 and it's grade 2, your price rather must go down. That is one thing that we must realize. We stick to a very high standard, which is acceptable in any country. So anything that Premium Foods will produce, we export. Yes. So if the standard is not maintained or is questionable, you can't export. And if you let your standard also dip, your company will go down. And when we go down, the farmer also go down. This is sometimes what the farmers don't realize.
The secretary to the Network for Commercial Farmers, Joshua Atuba, expressed concern about some challenges facing farmers and the need to address them.
Especially when it comes to mycotoxins, aflatoxins in particular. If farmers are not trained to adopt the best agronomic practice, they cannot meet these standards. And if they cannot meet the standard, it means that they will get a good yield, but their incomes and their livelihood cannot be improved. They will be cut off from the lucrative markets, which can only be accessed through adhering to the standards. So what is the way forward? We agree that as a country, a bulk of our food basket comes from smallholder farmers. And these are people that are not adhering to the standard. What do? We need to continue to educate our smallholder farmers. Let's find a way of putting them together as a group so that they don't work as individuals. At the end of the season, we can pool their output together and make economic volumes and move it to these commercial farmers who will always buy with the standard. It's the best way to enforce standardization in our agribusiness space in Ghana.
The project coordinator for SAPIP-SAPE, Felix Dramani, urged actors to take advantage of the meeting to negotiate for their produce.
It's important to know what volumes you have, where you want to sell it. And right from here, we expect that all the actors will start having that type of negotiations for their produce and other things.
Can you imagine retiring and not getting your pensions because the pensions company can just not pay up? The actuarial valuation reports are suggesting this is the likely future of SSNIT if there isn't an increase in SSNIT contribution rate to help address the social security imbalance and avoid a collapse of the pension system. The report says, due to cash flow measures, the basic national social security scheme is facing a medium to long-term sustainability problem.
The law stipulates that an external actuarial valuation on the SSNIT scheme is carried out every 3 years. Actuarial valuation reports are summarized into what is termed as the actuarial opinion, which is a statement certifying whether the scheme is financially sustainable over a specified period into the future. The last two reports observed that the SSNIT scheme was not financially sustainable, thereby suggesting that the current assets of SSNIT and future contributions will not be sufficient to pay all future benefits. Due to this looming danger, the report recommended that Parliament approved an increment in the rate of contributions. The Africa Center for Retirement Research, a non-profit policy research organization, believes that Parliament should consider increasing the SSNIT contribution rate to avoid a depletion of the scheme. Abdallah Mashoud is the executive director of the Africa Center for Retirement Research.
As it stands, adjusting the contribution rate appears to be the ideal and workable option because increasing retirement age will offer little impact and benefit cuts is not an option we want to discuss as a country now. To avoid leaving inequitable high contribution rate on future contributors, Parliament must take action now by reviewing the present contribution rate for a financially stable scheme. Indeed, depletion of the trust reserves in 2037 is an outcome to be avoided. and planning for the recommended increase in contribution rate is an activity that resides heavily with Parliament. The process of addressing the solvency concerns of the SNIT scheme will likely involve a strong political will, long stakeholder engagement, and intense debate in Parliament. It is time that the Parliament of Ghana and other relevant stakeholders examine actual recommendations and commence discussion on addressing financing shortfalls of the basic national social security scheme. Ladies and gentlemen, as far as fixing social security solvency concerns goes, we have little time to continue to kick the can down the road. The time for action is now, and it resides with Parliament.
The actuarial report also analyzed the impact of increasing the retirement age from 60 to 62 over a 12-year period starting from 2025 to 2037. The report indicated that increasing the retirement age should have a positive impact on the financial sustainability of the scheme.
Well, thank you for tuning in to the most watched business show in the country. This is the Business Weekly Show here on City TV. Please don't miss out on the Business Dashboard, which airs at 10 p.m. and repeats the following day at 7 and 10:30 a.m. every weekday. Our website, citybusinessnews.com, also has regular business news updates for you. Catch you same time next week. Stay safe, stay informed. My name is Michael Obodu, and it's bye-bye from here.